Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back for yet Spurs breaking another record of a 19th defeat in a Premier League season, equaling their most ever defeats in this domestic competition. We're here to try and save you and to try and understand where Spurs are. Look, spoiler alert before I start, I think everybody going into this game, which has seen Liverpool crowned Premier League champions. Let's be real. Let's be honest. No one's expecting us to go to Liverpool, go and beat them, dare I say, get a draw. But I think what we'd all love to have seen is an element of a display, a performance that gives us a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement going into Spurs' biggest game of the season, 1 or 2 legs against Bodo Glimt. And we saw pretty much the opposite. I'm joined by this star-studded panel that are going to help talk us, direct and guide us through all things Spurs. I'm joined by my wonderful, big man of mine, big friend of mine, wonderful Patty Tyrant's back on the show, as is 2 of my other fellow very close friends, Broadcaster Russ Williams, actor TJ Ramini, who are going to try and, like I say, steer us through all things Tottenham. I'm going to say again, massive thank you to the watching audience out there, to the listening audience that have been so supportive of this podcast over the last 7-8 years. And I know for all of us, we are just truly existing as Spurs fans, if that's the only word that I can describe, to try and understand what support we can try and offer the club right now and where we find ourselves. Look, Liverpool, crown Premier League champions, a truly fantastic season for the Reds domestically, who have scored 15 goals against Tottenham in all competitions this season. That is the joint highest ever. Ange Postecoglou, as I alluded to in the introductions of this show, has now equalled the most ever defeats in a Premier League season, being 19. That takes us all the way back to the 93-94 season and the 2003-2004 season. He has 4 more games to break an all-time record in the Premier League. And that previously happened in a 42-game season rather than a 38-game domestic campaign. And look, let's be honest about it. All of the Liverpool champions footage is really saving a lot of the scrutiny that should be falling on the players, most certainly the chairman and Ange Postecoglou right now. And there'll be a massive sense of a lot of Spurs fans out there asking and trying to understand, why is this happening? Why it wasn't dealt with many months ago, maybe in terms of the managerial tenure. And I think there's no way even a Europa League trophy, and some might disagree, glosses over this season. Tottenham also have the 6th worst defence in the Premier League this season, 56 goals conceded. Only Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich, Wolves and West Ham have conceded more goals. If Spurs concede 5 more goals, they will match their total goals conceded from last season, and that was 61. Before I bring in this panel, let me bring you the match facts and the stats from this game, which ended Liverpool 5, Tottenham Hotspur 1. 25 shots for Liverpool to Tottenham's 8. 8 shots for Liverpool on target to Spurs' 3. 36 touches in the Tottenham box for Liverpool as opposed to our 14. And quite frankly, from there, Liverpool out-fighting, out-pressing, dominating Spurs across the other stats in the game. Tackles, Liverpool 18-12. 51 recoveries to Spurs' 45. Liverpool having more final third entries, 51-33. Corners, Liverpool, again, the better of the 2 teams, 8-2. Dominating possession, the Reds, 63% to 37%. And XG, Liverpool, 2.45 to Tottenham's 0.41. And I must just say, before I do bring in Russ to start this show, that please don't forget, these 2 teams, these 2 sides that you see before your eyes, Tottenham and Liverpool, were at one point, and I must give credit to somebody I think on X that said this just after the game, they were neck and neck a few years ago. And as we know, there was an absolute sliding doors moment for the 2 clubs where there was one example of a focused football strategy with belief and ambition. And the other club, where on the weekend where we're recording this show, has a rival's anthem played out in our stadium for cash during the boxing. So if you could ever feel more disconnected than a Spurs fan, probably now is how you're feeling, because it's really, really hard to try and understand where the direction of the club is going. And that's before you even look at the players, where you've had former Tottenham Hotspur players suggest they've given up, they're not playing, and that in itself is wrong. We can't have players that are hiding. The manager, who for some shouldn't have been here a long, long time ago, and a chairman who it feels, and the hierarchy as well, have their focuses elsewhere. Russ, let me open with you. Of course, look, we're all going to be thinking, and most of the fan base really are going to be thinking about Thursday and Bodo in the first leg.
Yeah.
And the Champions-elect, right? We're playing at Anfield. It's one of the hardest venues to play at. We all know that as opposition fans, having our record there as it is in Anfield. But we've seen the similar kind of disorganised, this laxed attitude from a lot of these players throughout the season, the unmotivated nature of them, the tactically bereft performances of Ange Postecoglou. This really is a representation of the recent months under Ange in terms of the Premier League. It's a non-team. It's a 19th loss of the season in 34 games for Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham. The most amount of losses of any team outside the bottom three. What are we doing here, Russ?
I don't know. Look, Tottenham Hotspur, the football club, has had a massively leaking roof for months, and Daniel Levy hasn't even bothered to call a plumber. Most normal people would. 19 Premier League defeats, another sorry one today. Imagine, man or woman, you are very keen on somebody, a woman, a man, and you try for 19 times to go on a date with them, and they stand you up every time. But once they say, well, I'm going to Frankfurt, and they give you a peck on the cheek, and you think that that is the basis for a long-term relationship. And this is the extraordinary thing, that nearly all of our fan base now realize that this gentleman is not the answer, I'm afraid, going forward long-term. He cannot be. There are just too many negatives, too many things that we've seen. But there are a few who still believe that he's building a project. Well, we haven't even got any foundations. We haven't even put any bricks on the foundations. You know, we're regressing. And, you know, a long-term relationship with Ange, to me, is completely untenable. But a long-term relationship with the chairman and the owners is completely untenable. And I'm just going to share very quickly with you, Rick, some figures. Pochettino, 12.5 million. Jose Mourinho, 16 million. Conte, 4 million. AVB, 4.5 million. Nuno, 14 million. Martin Jol, treated appallingly, 4 million. Harry Redknapp, nice, 5 million. Juan de Ramos, 2.5 years of a 6 million a year contract, paid off. And if Ange Postecoglou goes, certainly a year, maybe 2 years of a supposed 4-year deal, although I did hear that the 4th year was optional. But let's call that 5 million. Let's throw in all of the coaching staff for these various coaches. You are looking at a conservative figure that Tottenham have paid out in compensation to managers over the last decade or so of 80 to 90 million pounds. Football is an industry that rewards failure. In that, it really is quite extraordinary. So if you are, ladies and gentlemen, a habitual termination payer, it's part of your raison d'etre, like Daniel Levy, then you are the problem too. And that's how I see it. Forget about 5-1 at Liverpool today. Disappointing. The players didn't look interested. 19 Premier League defeats for a supposedly big club with a world-class stadium. And, you know, he's putting out players today, bless him. Before the match, I tweeted, you know, these are young lads. It's an intimidating atmosphere. It's, you know, it's quite an occasion, but we wish them well. Good luck to them. But physically, they're not up to it. Archie Gray and Bergvall, they're too young. Brennan Johnson, physically not up to competing with teams like Liverpool and the top teams in the Premier League. And we go on and on. And, you know, the tactics, we're so open. I mean, just for playing out from the back and the goals we've conceded, Ange Postecoglou, in my view, should have been sacked just for that alone this season. It's been a disaster. And we can sit and moan about it, but it's not just Ange Postecoglou. I've just underlined with those figures that it's okay, we'll pay somebody off. We'll pay somebody off again. These are telephone numbers, extraordinary numbers. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace all round. I'm sorry. I wish I could be more positive. I've had a Moretti. I've had a very small glass of red. I'm not sloshed. Seriously, it cannot go on like this. And there was people last night with the Sheikh in the stadium for the boxing, another very, very successful financial event for ENIC and the owners of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club with the faux pas, Rick, as you quite rightly pointed out. Peter Cook, the old comedian, for our younger viewers and listeners, a very, very famous British comedian with Dudley Moore. And he was a big Tottenham fan. And I always remember on Match of the Day, he was interviewed, I think, by a young John Motson in the stand after we played Arsenal at home. And he said, well, it was a good game. He said, but there's always a problem when they come here. We have to fumigate the stadium. Now, it's a bit of fun, but last night we're putting up with a red roof and that dirge coming through the speakers, the least. Instead of paying out all these people, he's have a bit of money left in the bank and completely change the audio system in the stadium. It's been poisoned by that dreadful dirge, you know. But to be serious, we're in real trouble. And anyone who thinks Thursday is going to be the solution and winning the Europa League is going to be the solution, yes, it would be a great achievement. We all would love to see it. But if hand on heart, it's really unlikely.
Can I just on that point, Russ, and you made a really important point there. You know, when you think, I mean, again, people have their different views about the nature of the boxing and whether that's a separate event to Tottenham as a football club. But I mean, for a chairman that I think at a point didn't even want a red car being driven into the training ground, didn't want a red crane to be there when they were demolishing White Hart Lane. We've got our opposition's anthem being belted out through the speakers inside the stadium. It's beggars belief. I mean, Pat, I'm going to come to you, then I'm going to come to Tej. Pat, look, I think Russ picked up an important point there that for many out there, that even winning the Europa League, which I'm laughing as I say that, because at the moment, I can't even believe this is a possibility. But if Tottenham were to win the Europa League, I think for many, many out there, that still wouldn't gloss over a lot of what we've seen domestically, the 19 defeats. And I do just wonder, Pat, and this is going to come to you, that how many nasty scars are going to be left behind when the damage has been done to these players through this season. Is that something you worry you about, Pat? Because we can't get rid of 19, 20 players. Yes, the manager can go, but the majority of these players will stay here. And again, I have to put this defeat a lot also, not on Ange, but on the players. A lot of them, you've got a former Tottenham Hotspur player suggesting they've given up. I would suggest they went hiding for me in that game. What's your tactical takeaway for you, Pat, on it?
I have to... Ultimately, it lies on the manager. I know everything you said is correct, Ricky, but unfortunately, it lies on the manager because the manager has allowed us to wilt. And essentially, I've been saying it all season, and I was called negative, and people said I don't know what I'm doing, and like Russ said, we should get behind the project and all of this stuff. But ultimately, you could see this coming, and now we're at a stage where the Premier League games don't mean anything. And I say that with all due respect, because obviously to the fans that travel and to us paying fans that go to the games and us fans that make the time to sit down and watch the games, you know, the convenience of me watching at 4:30 p.m. on a Sunday, where you've got people like TJ tuning in around the world, having to break their sleep or break their cycle to tune in. You know, I've got friends and people that hit me up from all over the world now on social media, tuning in from Asia, Africa, wherever, and they're having to go above and beyond to watch the game. So to them, it means everything. But you can see that the manager has allowed us to lose so many games. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately, however you want to think about it, because there's no actual relegation scrap anymore and there's nothing to play for, it doesn't matter if we lose another game. It doesn't matter if we lose another game after that and another one. And I hate to say it, but that's the truth. And that's what you're seeing on the pitch. These players are not trying. If you look at the Thursday, in terms of the attitude, the application, the desire, the way these guys were blocking every shot, the way they were defending with their lives, the way they were making sure that every pass was accurate, the way they were staying in line line in formation, defending as a unit, and you compare that to today, it's chalk and cheese. It's literally two different teams, two different units. Like, you would think these guys, if you watch it today, had never played together before. The line was so high and all over the place. Danso was out of line for 1 minute. Then Burvell's here. Then Archie Gray's there. Kulusevski's doing this. Maddison's not doing. It's just a joke. Like, but unfortunately, it all goes back to the manager, because the manager has allowed us to be in this position. There's no tactics. The guy just says, literally go out there and play. Like, there's nothing. I don't see anything there to warrant and show me that this guy's been here for almost 2 years. It's insane to think that this guy's paid the amount of money he's paid, was lauded as a top manager, and lo and behold, when you watch these guys, it looks like they've never played together before. We're so easy to play against. Gary Neville said it. We were the perfect team for Liverpool to play today. At least, even if Ipswich or Southampton went to Anfield today, they would at least try and be resolute, break us down, and we're trying to hit you on a counter. We're so open. We let Liverpool have like 80% possession and just pass it through the lines, and do whatever they wanted to do to us. 5-1, embarrassing, but it could have been 10-1, realistically. It was such an awful game to watch, and you just know that there's nothing there. That this team, yeah, Dominic Solanke scored early, and I was thinking, okay, maybe today might be the day where we actually tear up the script and the football gods actually throw us a bone, so we're not the joke of the day. But it is what it is, and it's just. But going back to what you said, it will be a thing where in the summer you will see departures. Big players will want to go because they don't want to be at a team where there's no direction and there's no. Even if we win the Europa, which I hope and pray we do, I really do. But you can't see Romero staying here another year. The guy's going to be, what, 27, 28. He's given 4, 5, 6 years to Spurs. And you can see that it's a sinking ship. He'll want to go. He's a top player. He's going to have teams coming in for him. Other players, it's maybe a bit too early in their career, like your Mickey van der Vens and your Dojis. It's probably too early for them to jump ship. But Romero's at the right age, been here for long enough, can see what's going on. He's going to go. And it's not a good sign when your best players constantly leave. It doesn't send a good message to the players that are staying. And it doesn't send a good message to the players that you're trying to recruit, because essentially you're just a springboard until there's a better opportunity. And we wanted to be a club now, once we moved to the stadium, that we weren't a stepping stone, that players came here to stay here and win things here. And unfortunately, at the moment, we are a stepping stone. We're a bigger club, bigger lights, brighter lights. You can showcase your talents, and then essentially you move on. I won't be surprised if you start hearing stuff about Kulusevski wanting to leave, wanting to, express himself and see what's out there. Oh, Spain looks nice. Italy looks good. Oh, maybe I want to go back to Italy. You're going to start hearing those sort of things coming out, because this club is going nowhere. And all the top players will start throwing these things out. And it's a shame, because like, it shouldn't be like this at this point in our season and this point of our Postecoglou's reign or tenure. But we picked the wrong manager. He's the wrong horse to back. I was arguing back and forth with a Man City fan the other day. He was saying that we're not patient enough. We need to give Postecoglou more time. If he wins something, you back him. But I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but it's the wrong guy to back. I do get the sentiment. I really do. And we all wanted to back this guy, but this is the wrong guy to back, man. A team that loses 19, 20, 18 games, I can't see, and I don't see anything. Even if you're losing games and you can see some structure, you can see some sort of patterns of play, you can see some sort of identity. I don't see anything. So as much as people are saying, oh, it's too early to back him, we need a project, you guys don't have the stomach for a project, that's all nonsense, man. Because with projects, you see some sort of growth, you see some sort of improvement, and there's nothing there. We're investing all our time, funds, and money into it, and we're not getting any return. It's crazy. But yeah, shout out to, I saw Lee Smith in the comments, really cool guy that I saw up in Ozariki's down in Tottenham before the Forest game, and shout out to Neil G. So I see a few comments. I can't see everyone in the comments right now because obviously I'm talking, but shout out to the guys that tune in and show me a lot of love. Shout out to you lot. Shout out to the travelling fans. And yeah, fuck me. Just please fast forward to the end of the season, and hopefully when we press skip, we finish with a trophy. That's all I can say right now.
Oh, I'll tell you, if we had that skip button now, that would save us a lot more money.
Adam Sandler and click. Just get the remote out.
Tej, let me come around to you. Let me skip over to Tej. Bless him, Tej. We kept you there. I'm so sorry about to keep you waiting. We love having you on this show, as you know. Oh, Tej, look, you know what? As I've said, there's a lot, it feels, with Tottenham every weekend to try and unpack. And we keep saying to ourselves that it feels like a copy and paste job at the moment for a lot of us. You know, we're talking about the same issues week upon week. We all want to see the club win a trophy. We all want to see the club be successful. But right now, what we're seeing is almost a version of Tottenham I've actually never seen in my lifetime like this, where from the very, very top of the football club, from the hierarchy to the manager to the group of players, everyone looks so non-invested. If that's the right word. I mean, for someone that is so positive, can you find any for me? I mean, what are we seeing at the moment here? What are we seeing? That must be. Can I just say, at the end of the season, when people actually rack up my, most used phrases, that will be the one I've asked the most this season. What are we seeing?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, listen, and justifiably so. It's, I said on the last show, speaking of the copy and paste nature of what we're having to endure at the moment, it's a very tough place to be right now. And to Pat's point, man, perfectly articulated, Pat. Got to show love and respect to the fans, man. The fans that pay their money and go to the games. And as you said, to the international audience around the world who wake up at ungodly hours and, sneak out of bed, try not to wake up their wives and children, don't tread on the dog's tail and sneak into the living room. And, me being one of those people. Listen, there are some positives. We can get into that later. And again, I'm not looking to hoodwink anybody or bamboozle anyone. I think we're a pretty, well-educated fan base with what we're seeing. We've got some really good players, some exciting players, and something that can certainly be built on. But to Russ's point, the foundations are just shot to pieces right now. Again, we talked about the fine margins in the upper echelons of sport. And so if mentality has just completely been eroded, and also the manner in which that erosion has occurred, any geographers out there who know, the literal term of erosion, it's something that happens over time. It's typically done by water or wind, right? And so we have endured such long-lasting suffering that it has just been eked away over a significant amount of time. And to Patrick's point, man, people have said that Patrick was negative. I've never seen that. Patrick and I have disagreed on a couple of things, but I don't think he's negative at all. I think he's an extremely scholarly student of this game, takes prolific notes. Anyone who's ever seen Patrick's notebook, and he really puts in a lot of time and energy. There it is, exactly, not just to this show, but to his own content. And he's a really knowledgeable person. And to say he's negative is just such an inaccurate criticism. And I think that what's happened now is that we have seen beyond any kind of reasonable doubt for the lawyers out there that this just doesn't work. I was, for the very longest time, I think it could work with this manager. We score a lot of goals. We play an exciting brand of football, which we wanted. It's a complete 180-degree turn from where we were with Conte. He was a very negative manager. And again, we've proved that when it works, we can go to clubs and turn on fantastic performances, like we did at Frankfurt very recently, right? It's the same guy and the same principles. It has to be executed by the players, so they also have to take responsibility. To Brother Jason's point that he makes all the time, another ardent Tottenham fan and a lovely man and a very articulate and intelligent man, talks about how players have to take responsibility. But again, back to Patrick, it's ultimately the manager. And so for us to be quite so vulnerable, we've just kind of proven, because now we've got players back as well. I said, remember, Pat, for the longest time, I remember you saying it as well, mate, on other shows, it is very difficult to judge anybody when you have that many key personnel missing. Well, that, not excuse, that reality scenario has been removed from the equation. And now we're seeing, okay, you know what, at this level, I was saying to a really good friend of mine, another Tottenham boy, lives over here, Tom Kavanagh, lovely guy, great player as well. And we were saying that you can't just be undone with one pass, because any team can do that. So if you're a team that can just be undone with one pass, man, like, that's highly problematic. We do have certain individuals who've really dropped the ball, and that's going to be a kind of, an ironic statement when we talk about the goalkeeper later in the episode, I'm sure. But it isn't working. It hasn't worked. It's Europa or bust. Listen, man, great to be back on the show. I promise to the viewers and the listeners, there will be some things to smile about. And we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to try to manipulate or mystify you. There are a lot of positives about this team. We have some great players. And of course, just to why I selected this background, this is who we are. this is Tottenham Hotspur. We're a team with great history and great pedigree that has also been forgotten over the years, to Russ's point. And so that's what we should focus on. That's what we need to get back. The heart of the club needs to be restored, and then the results will follow. Thanks for having me back on, Rick. Nice to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And I will just say, friend of the show, Nick Costa, who I dearly love very, very much, Ant said to me earlier today when we spoke, he said, what's the first mistake going to be? Is it going to be a Davis or Danzo back pass? Is it going to be a doggy own goal? And got the bingo call spot on. It was all of them. And I think the problem is now that as fans, we're almost at a point now where we already know what we're predicting as to how games are going to go. And that's where really that not only you may be losing an emphasis of belief and confidence, but you know really that the players aren't no longer playing for the manager. I think, as I've said many, many times, and I still maintain this point, many might think I'm crazy by saying this, I do not believe these players are as bad as what we are seeing right now. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe the likes of Destiny Udogie is as bad as what we're seeing. I think, even Archie Gray, bless him, who was put in today in centre mid, you'd argue, was it I know we've all been calling for Archie Gray to start in midfield, but do you wait and then start Archie Gray when you've been waiting to start in midfield away at Liverpool? The fans are at their most loudest optimum level on the brink of the Premier League.
And after he's not played, Pat, in the
last 3, 4, 5 games.
It makes no sense. You just threw the kid.
Into a fire.
You crucified him. Yep. Like, none of his tactics make sense. The way he sets the team up doesn't make sense. He hasn't developed any player. Players are regressing under his tenureship. Yep. His relationship with the fans is at an all-time low.
Yep.
Even his statements when he's talking to the press don't make sense anymore. Him coming out and saying about, last year, I was crucified for finishing 5th. This year, everyone's applauding me for the team's finishing 5th. Well, I mean, we absolutely bottled the second half of the season, so that's one thing. Second thing, 5th this year is Champions League football, so obviously it's going to be a bigger, just nothing he says makes sense anymore, man. The guy's way out of his depth, and he's just...
Yeah. He's
shot to pieces, isn't it?
Do you think there's a case, a compelling case, that he should be shown the door tonight or tomorrow morning ahead of Thursday?
Russ,
I think there is.
But Russ, in a normal football club, because I don't know what normal is anymore being a Tottenham fan.
Haven't. We've got Daniel Levy's football club. I've just explained, Rick, with the payoffs. It's not logical.
No, but that's what I mean. But in any normal situation, which Tottenham are not normal in any way,
no, they're not.
This manager would have been gone a long time ago. But the problem is now, because they've allowed him to stay after the Everton game, I mean, even before the Leicester game, or after the Coventry game in the Carabao Cup, because you've made those allowances now.
Yeah, it's too late now. You can't throw him out.
They're not going to sack him. They're not going to sack him now on the brink of a semi-final first leg.
We can't now. It sounds crazy, but we can't.
On this point, Pat, on the semi-final first leg, which again, this might worry some Spurs fans out there, that
I know.
Present, in terms of points per game, he's the worst manager in our modern history, Ange Postecoglou. He's also the same manager who was in charge of a different club, being Celtic, that lost 5-1 on aggregate, including a 3-1 home defeat to our opponents coming up in the Europa League of Bodo Glimt, which is hardly encouraging. This was
my main concern when a lot of people said for me to get behind him and this and that, and I said, of course I will. He's being appointed, but I said my main concern was away in Europe, or when he played the better teams with Celtic, he absolutely got dismantled, and I was like, you can look at Celtic and you can look at Ange in the Scottish League. He's got the best team. He's got the best players. Ultimately, he should win that league. But when you looked at him against better managers or just teams of his ilk and, just a bit better, he struggled massively. And coming into the Premier League, you know that Tottenham are not the biggest and best team. And you will have to work miracles with the squad you've got. And when, going back to your point, Ricky, when you look at us and you, where we are in the league, we are pound for pound the worst team in the Premier League right now, pound for pound, in terms of the losses, in terms of the players that we've got at our disposal, in terms of the squad talent that we've put together, in terms of the wages that we pay, in terms of the wages he's on. And you look at that compared to, you can't tell me that Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Brentford,
Bournemouth.
Fulham, Bournemouth, that they have better teams than us. Man for man, they don't. They don't have better players than us, but they're a better team. And the problem is, it's the manager, unfortunately. And I know, don't get me wrong, some of these players have nowhere near been good enough this season. But I
They're
don't
not as
believe
bad
that
as this.
every
They're
single
not
player is as bad
They're
as
not.
that.
They're
And when
not.
they go away for international duty or when they play for, you see how much better they are. So
Bentancur in those 2 games. I'm going to come back round to you, Russ. Now I know you're coming. We'll go to TJ.
Very small point. Yeah. Carry on, Rick. Sorry.
Bentancur, he went and performed away at Uruguay, obviously in that last international break. He looked like an absolute superstar. We dropped him back into us for the 2 games after that, and you're just thinking that is not the same player that we are seeing. Russ, go for your point. You were going to mention there.
Why couldn't we make a case for relieving Ange of his duties tonight? We sacked Jose Mourinho 6 days before a cup final. Yes. And by the way, let me have a look at the numbers. Paid him £16 million to go. So it wasn't anything to do with money. And he was doing a lot better than Ange Postecoglou is. I just don't buy this. Oh, a semi-final is not a cup final. It might be a cup final, but it isn't.
Russ, you can make a strong case. I'm not suggesting in any way that you're making the wrong case. I think you're making the right case. I think you're making the right case. The problem with this discussion is, and what should have happened, this should have happened months ago. As I've said so many times, it shouldn't have been there was question marks over the Coventry game. And look, I think someone made a point actually also on X that maybe avoiding defeat in the Coventry game in the League Cup maybe made things only matters worse, because if they maybe would have got rid of him after the Coventry game, we still had a lot of the season to play out. And dare I say, we could have been sitting in a much better position in the league. And dare I say, even with the FA Cup, would we be in a better position? But it's all what ifs and know-hows. I know Tej on this point, before we are going to hear from Ange, I'm really sorry about that out there. This is an ongoing discussion, isn't it, Tej, at the moment with regards to every week we're having this. And I know a lot of people wanted to be behind the manager, but it's really hard to be behind him when, as you've suggested as well, when you're looking at the attitude of the players and how open we are, it doesn't feel like these players even want to be out on the pitch at the moment.
I think again, what we've seen is that as soon as you turn the ball over, you're in trouble. Like as soon as you lose the ball. Of course, you can assign blame to individual players who haven't done well enough this season or whatever. But ultimately, there is not a football team on earth ever who doesn't turn the ball over. That's the nature of the sport. It's like, if you're a tennis player, you're not going to serve 100 aces and win the game. Whatever analogy you want to apply to this, you're always going to lose the ball. And so the problem is that when you're playing in a league, and again, I've seen this, I have seen this, and I was like, I think it could work with Ange. I've said that for the longest time. And now we have seen when all the players have come back, we've been saying for months, I have personally said, I don't feel I can judge this manager because he's had too many injuries. Well, now that equation has been removed. And so now we can all see clearly. People have been saying, I've been saying that for months. I haven't been saying that for months. I'm not going to sit here and profess that I know everything about football. And to be honest, anybody that does should have a serious word with themselves. There's too many variables for anybody to work out. When we lose the ball, we're in trouble. And if you play against a good side today, they put 5 past you. And again, it could have been 10, like Patrick said. Yep. So should we sack him tonight? I can see, of course, yes or no. Again, for me personally, it would create too much disruption with a game in 4 days. For me personally, too much disruption. And I think this team is good enough because we showed it against Frankfurt, where you could play despite.
I think these players will play. I honestly think on that point, Tej, I think the players would actually win in spite of him in a way. I think the players will come to.
They're good enough. And also, you've got everybody saying, I bet Bodo will beat Tottenham at Tottenham. Again, I don't know any of these boys. I can only speak to my own personality. If somebody ever really doubts me, I'm the kind of person that says, watch me prove you wrong. So I think we have enough players in that team to get a job done and to really show these guys what they can do as individuals, despite the manager, despite the system.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also on the point, Tej, just to come back on that point, I think the problem is now that if Tottenham want to make a change internally, this is just my opinion only, I don't think Ryan Mason wants it for a third time.
No.
I think, Matty Wells, who's never really been at that level before. Does
Matty Wells, Ryan Mason, Tottenham boy, blah, blah, blah. The fact that he's still there is also
part of the problem.
part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he's still there is also part of the problem. The fact that he
part of the
No disrespect to him personally. You're still there, mate.
Yeah. The whole thing needs a root branch clear out in terms of the coaching staff. It really does need a new voice in there. But the problem with this discussion is, and Russ, to your point, I just want to be very clear, Russ, what you're saying. Everyone is in agreement. I think everyone is in agreement with you that in any normal logical situation, what you are putting forward, Russ, should have been done a long time ago.
Yes.
And in any normal situation, if this is what we're facing now, yes, you'd make the change tomorrow. But we're not a normal football club. We're a football club that host events at the stadium, which again is a separate situation, which people might be for and against, that have, I can't get away from this, the anthem of our most, bitter rivals in Arsenal belting out through the stadium. Some might agree, some might disagree with that. I just don't recognise where this club is going. Look, we're going to very quickly fit in this first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We have got over, I think, nearly 15,000 of you that are watching the show live. Again, I will just say thank you ever so much for all the support for Last Word on Spurs this season. And I think we've all spoken as a pact, as a group. This has brought us a lot closer together as a group. I was saying this to actually Teach the other week, and I was saying to Pat, I think as well, that, as a group of, supporters that come on this show, and I'll just say, look, nothing special about us or me. We love talking Tottenham. We love doing the shows, and the amount of love I get expressed for the show out there is quite simply unbelievable. I know for many out there, they rely on the show just to try and simply keep them into the space of normality, that what you're seeing isn't normal. And as TJ said earlier, we're not going to hoodwink you or try and tell you otherwise. We'll always try and tell you as it is. And as it is right now is an absolute shambles. So we're going to go for our first break of the show. If I can please keep asking you guys to like and subscribe to Last Word on Spurs, that will be greatly appreciated. We're going to bring in head coach Ange Postecoglou to get his verdict on those proceedings against Liverpool, where, of course, they won the game 5-1. Let's hear from Ange Postecoglou if we can.
Rob, John starts off.
I am. Can you just get your thoughts first of all on the result of the performance?
A credit to Liverpool. Worthy champions, and they've been the outstanding team all year, consistent, and again today, they obviously, I thought we started the game well and sort of made things difficult for them. Even apart from the goal, I just thought in general we sort of had decent territory, but once they got in front with the atmosphere in the stadium, fair to say it was going to be difficult for us to claw them back, and that's how it proved.
And how much of a concern is it, Ange, that you seem able to produce these performances against Frankfurt, which was really impressive? You made changes in the league, and it looks like the team just isn't able to compete in the same way.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy on the players because if you look at sort of Liverpool's lineup, you could almost pick it, on a weekly basis. I have made a lot of changes, but I just felt they've been necessary. There's been a lot of our players who've missed a lot of this season with injuries, and it wasn't just about bringing them back, but managing their minutes because, obviously we want them ready. So, guys like Mickey and Romero today could have played, but they've missed so much of the season that, just got to be really careful about when we use them. Guys like Pedro, Bentancur, obviously played a lot this year. It's been a juggling act for sure, and that hasn't helped the team, hasn't helped the players, and when you're facing the best, you pay that price.
Did you come through with a clean bill of health?
Yeah, no, and everyone's good. The ones who played all got through it okay, and so in terms of Thursday, everyone should be fine.
Is any part of your job lifting the squad now before Thursday? Do they know?
No, I don't think so. I think they're well aware of it, and like I said, that we had some key players missing today who I think will come in and sort of make sure that there isn't any sort of any hangover from today. Look, we knew the challenge today was going to be a big one, especially like I said. I mean, we had really young midfield with Lucas and Archie, and you're asking a massive task of them, and change 3 of the back 4. All these kind of things logically tell you it's going to be a tough day, but when you're facing the best team and on such a massive occasion, it was always going to be a huge ask for us and prove too much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So those were the thoughts there of Ange Postecoglou. I think for many out there, there's kind of just getting used to the same things being said game after game. You know, very much still in protection of the players. I mean, you may argue he's got to protect the players because if he does go into the players, what else has he got left? You know, I think as Pat said earlier, the relationship with the fan base is really at an all-time low. There's been no signs, as Pat actually said as well. I'm sorry, Pat, I keep saying as Pat said, but it's the reality of what Pat said, that there's been no indication of trying to fix that relationship. If anything, it's almost adding more petrol to a fire. And these are the same players that Ange Postecoglou picked. You know, he did make 8 changes. And just to give, if I can, just to mention some of the notes we've had in from some of the viewers and listeners here. Wilcox says, the worst manager we've ever had, on the verge of becoming the most successful manager we've ever had by winning the Europa League. Weird. I wouldn't be sure Wilcox many feel like that. But look, you know, he would be Tottenham's most successful manager since 1984 if he does deliver the European trophy. But I think on the back of this domestic campaign, which again, I will say, has equaled the most ever defeats in a Premier League season being 19, I think it's very hard for anyone to really make a case this is the most successful manager we've ever seen since 1984. There's been better ones than Ange Postecoglou, I have to say. Mike Pezza says, Arsenal anthem, there should be limitations in the T's and C's when renting out the stadium. Having the stadium bathed in red is absolutely criminal. I know many feel like that as well. Kayed says here, a rock will not suddenly break without you seeing cracks developing. And that was with reference to Ange Postecoglou's stone cutter analogy, which might have gone over as many people's heads. I know there's probably many that are, I know, kind of say there's many people that have actually given up watching the press conferences. There's many that just will simply not listen to Ange Postecoglou anymore. But yeah, the press conferences are becoming a real drain for some. Jamie says here, Spence, bang average, Gray, bang average, Danso, bang average, Tell, bang average, Solanke, bang average. We have one of the most overrated squads in the Premier League. Jamie, look, you're entitled to your opinion. I will say, just for me alone, as I've said throughout really the last however many weeks and months on this show, I do not think these players are as bad as what you are seeing now. And I think Rush have said this a number of times, as well as TJ and Pat have said it as well. We've not really seen a real progression in any real of these players since Ange has been here. I think when we talk about the likes of Lucas Bergvall, we talk about Archie Gray at the very start of his time at Tottenham coming through here. These were players, in my opinion, that were just really, you know, getting football, and you were seeing what they're made of. I just honestly don't see a way in which Ange Postecoglou has directly impacted the players from a coaching perspective. When I turn my mind back to someone like Mauricio Pochettino, who, again, you guys will remember, I think he had 6 Tottenham players in the England squad at one point, and you could actually see the development of these players through a sustained period, the likes of Walker, the likes of Rose, Kane, Dele Alli. You know, you go through the squad Tottenham had under Mauricio Pochettino, every one of those players in terms of the first 11 pretty much improved under him, and a lot of the squad did as well. Russ, do you want to come on this point?
Look, not everything about Ange Postecoglou is dislikable. I mean, to be honest with you, I couldn't manage a Sabutio team, but I don't get paid lots of money to be.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Russ, I'll put you in for Thursday.
Okay. No, but he's given an easy ride I think from a journalistic point of view a lot of the time. I mean, we've just conceded 5 goals at Anfield today, and they've won the Premier League title, and good on them, by the way. But nobody says, well, you know, here at Anfield, they played Leicester, Fulham, West Ham and Ipswich and only beat them by 1 goal in all of those games. Why are you so bad? You know, nobody is putting him on the hook, and we can all see it. The fans can see it. Opposing clubs' fans can see it. And all we're getting is the same platitudes. You know, I do accept, to go back to that point, I think TJ or Pat, maybe it was you, Ricky, were making earlier, that, you know, you can't really have Matty Wells and Ryan Mason in charge. I do think the case is compelling on Levy's past form, that you could say goodbye to Ange tonight or tomorrow, because he's done it before to a far better coach. You know, Alex Inglethorpe was with us, wasn't he? Went to Liverpool to the reserves and won everything. Why are we allowing talent like that to go? If we've foundations of a football club, there are no foundations. There's a hole. There's no cement in it even.
The problem is, though, you know, what we're seeing here is a club that have truly lost their direction with football being the priority. And the
Yeah.
problem is, I think, again, I might be wrong on this. I don't know if you agree, Pat. I think the players maybe sense that. The manager, I think, certainly knows that as well. When you've got a collective group of staff that look at the upper echelons of who are actually running this, and you see, Pat, that their focus is not on football. I think, Pat, you might have said on a previous show, that 1.52% of a player that you need to be on their game, if they're sensing this is not a serious football club, I honestly believe that transcends onto the pitch. And that is what you're seeing right now. Nobody
100%.
expected
100%.
Tottenham to go to Liverpool and win. Nobody expected to go to Liverpool and get a point. But at the same time, the standards of this football club should not be conceding, with all due
That's
respect
it.
as I say this, 5 at
100%.
Liverpool, 4
And-
at Wolves, 3 at Everton. We could go on.
The thing is, like what you said is so right. Nobody expected, but deep down, if this team was a unit and we were together, we would say, forget what everyone else is saying. We
Yep.
know we've got it in us
Yep.
today to turn up, shock the world. If we play our game, we could probably catch Liverpool cold. They're not going to be 100% focused on just this game. They're focused on the occasion, and we could actually get something out of this game. We could at least, even if you leave with a point, at least you haven't gone there and been humiliated. So, Liverpool win the league, so be it. It's not on Tottenham. Every team this year hasn't been up to scratch, and therefore that's why Liverpool are in the position they're in. No one's going to talk about how Arsenal have dropped the ball and are so far off them, or how Man City, who was, the champions 4 times in a row, are so bad this season. No one's going to talk about that in this moment. It's just about Tottenham, Liverpool, and can Tottenham stop them? That's what's going on right now. That's what the focus was on. But as a team, as a unit, and again, we're a decent proposition for young players who are talented and want to get some game time, and then therefore will be on a bigger stage for bigger clubs to come in. So your Lucas Bergvels may turn down a Barcelona to come to Tottenham, where they're more likely to get more game time at the moment, be on a decent stage, typically have European football, typically be fighting for a Champions League spot or Europa League spot. The same with Matthias Tell, the same with Archie Gray, hence why he turned away down Brentford and came to us. But if this continues, we're not even going to attract the young, talent, because they're going to see it and say, the manager doesn't really trust you, doesn't play you. When he does play you, he throws you in the firing pan like he did with Archie Gray. What he did to Archie Gray is disgusting. That is crazy. In a game where he actually wants to play in his right position, you throw him in for 45 minutes.
At Anfield.
Anfield.
A team that needs a point to win the title.
It's so dumb. I'm sorry to say it, without even thinking of any better.
I think it's negligence,
so
Pat.
dumb.
It's negligence.
It's crazy for the kids' confidence and just for the team unit. And again, and even now, I saw in the comment, someone shout out to the guy who said Danso bang average, Jed Spence bang average. I get it, and I get you're right to have your opinion. And if you looked at this game in isolation, you would say that.
You would think
but
that.
these guys are not bang average. They're all very, very good footballers, and they've shown that. But as a unit, with this manager, with no direction and with no game plan, everyone looks bang average. Vicario is a good goalkeeper. I know he is. He's got it in him. But with the direction and being forced to play out from the back and being forced to do things that he's not comfortable doing, he looks bang average at the moment. Everyone looks bang average when you're playing with a manager that has no direction, no sense, no purpose. Look at David Moyes at Everton. Look at since he's come in, how much better they look.
Yep.
And the Everton squad is not better than ours. Come on. And David Moyes, he's an okay manager. He's not the greatest, but at least he has some sort of identity, philosophy, and this is how he wants to play. And he gets that across to the players. And they understand it. I don't think our players understand what Ange is doing, and they don't believe it. And that's where the 1%, 2% drop off comes in. And you just see players that are like, we don't really care about today because it doesn't mean anything. And that's the attitude we got now.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's many that don't know where the next win is coming from in terms of the Premier League. And it goes back to that point, doesn't it? I mean, Tej, do you worry for some of these players how much they will be emotionally scarred from this season?
Yes.
Is that a big concern about these players? Because
it's a massive concern.
Many might think I'm wrong for backing them, TJ, but I honestly think these players are not as bad as what we're seeing.
No, I mean, again, to Patrick's point, everybody is entitled to their opinion, and off the back of a really humiliating defeat, off the back of dozens of humiliating defeats. Again, I spoke about how this club has been eroded away over the years. And it's very difficult for us to remain rational, for us to remain even to have a clear focus and perspective, because we've been kicked so hard so many times. Here are the positives for people are saying, where's the therapy? Here are the positives. I think we have already seen, and again, if we put our hand on our hearts and try to be honest and try to temper a lot of the negative emotions that we're feeling right now, no matter how justified they may be, I think we can look through our team and go, we've got some really good players here. I really like Pedro Porro. I think he's a really talented player. He certainly loves the club. I really like Lucas Bergvall. I really like Archie Gray. I really like Kevin Danzo. I think he looks like a fantastic purchase. And again, has come in with a terrific attitude. I've spoken glowingly about him since he's arrived because I feel that he deserves it. I think Jed Spence, people were saying, 2 months ago, we're saying, well, why isn't he in the England squad? Myself included. He's absolutely fantastic. He's not going to be 100% every single day. And also, if he's been played in a team that's really been put out there to be put to the sword, he's not going to shine. I really like Dom Solanke. I really like him. I think he works very hard. He scored a great goal today. He also showed that he can physically handle himself against arguably the best centre-back in the league, if not one of the best centre-backs in the world. Physically, could handle him. And so here are the positives, Tottenham fans. And again, we have shown throughout the season far too sporadically and far too rarely that we can compete and beat the best. So the system has let us down. The manager has let us down. The ownership has let us down. However, we do have more than glimmers of hope, I believe. I think we've got some nuggets of really special players. I think Pat Matissar, people are saying, oh, no, he's not good enough. I think there's still a really good player left in him. So there are foundations to build upon if we can keep them motivated, if we can, again, to Patrick's point, make them think there is something here worth staying for, worth fighting for. We do want to compete. We are ambitious. And that comes from the top. I've said ages ago, so many times, what are the expectations of any manager that comes through the door and any player that comes through the door? If the owner is saying, we have brought you here because we want to win, we want to take all the marbles, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but we want to be knocking on the door next year, getting even closer the year after, and maybe taking the bloody thing the following year. That's the kind of impetus that we need to prove to players like Kulusevski, if you want to keep them, stay at this football club.
Do you see on that point, Russ, coming over to you, any indication from what we're seeing at board level, anything's going to massively change, Russ, with regards to the direction? Because, a lot of people were suggesting, I know a lot of close Spurs fans that watch this show, I always say the show is as close to the terrace as it can be. A lot of the guests that come on the show, like Pat, for example, isn't seem to get hold of in the stadium, Do you reckon they can recognise what's going on? You've got a former Spurs player tweeting the players are giving up.
Yes. I saw
You've got,
that.
on the back of this weekend, an event hosted at the stadium which has gone worldwide. Everyone knows at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You've got Turkey Al Sheikh in there, of course, who's done wonders with the boxing, you'd say, in terms of what the fights have been brought on. Is there any real feeling for you we're going to get our Tottenham back in terms of somebody or a group that will come in and save the football club? Because I honestly now look at it, as I've said many, many times here, we are in, for me, this kind of Mike Ashley syndrome now, where we are now waiting for somebody to come in and honestly save the football club and put football back at the very, very top of the priority list. Because I honestly believe now Daniel Levy and the hierarchy that are at Tottenham no longer have football as the priority. And unfortunately, that seeps down to the manager. It seeps down to the playing squad. And that's why we shouldn't be surprised by these performances, these results, the season that we've had, because football is not the priority.
No, I think TJ, everybody made some very good points about certain members of our squad, but it's totally unreasonable for us to expect them to shine when the manager is on a downward spiral, on a corkscrew, and he's going down and down and down because he is not the future. TJ was talking there about, getting close and, maybe the next season doing it. We were close. We were in a Champions League final, albeit shocking opening couple of minutes. We all know what happened. We could have won the Premier League, but Leicester defied all the odds. That is being close. Everybody in football, everybody who supports other clubs, almost without exception, was saying how great we were to watch, what a good team we were. Dele and Harry and Sonny, in their pomp, extraordinary football we played. We have been close, but we have an owner who it doesn't really matter to him whether you're close. The pound notes are nice, but you've got to love football to want to be close and close and close again. And it is very, very difficult when there's been an absolute huge amount of managers that have come in, been removed. Sorry to go back to the start of the show, Rick, but they got rid of by the chairman to save him from getting the flack. Now, because of the history of what's happened with some of these world-class managers, one or two duffers, I must say, nobody believes that he's capable, I don't think, of actually taking the club forward because he can't hide anymore. And it's, in a way, it's unfortunate for Ange Postecoglou to have come into our football club at the time when he did. If I was him sitting at Celtic, I'd have taken the job. My God, Spurs, I would have thought it was Christmas, when the call came through. But the way the club is, and as you quite rightly say, Rick, and a lot of our listeners and viewers do as well, the way that the owners are now concentrating on multiple streams of income, the main stream of income, the football club, is becoming less and less important. And the only way I can see it changing, because let's be honest, what top manager is really going to want to come to Spurs at the moment with the history of the owners and the board and the performance on the pitch and that kind of, and the mental attitude, Ange sitting in the press conference today saying, well, it's very difficult, couldn't really expect us to do anything really in the circumstances. If Italy had thought that in the European Championship final against England, oh, we can't cope with this pressure, they're at home, we're going to lose, they wouldn't have won, would they? It's all up here, I think, and it's all about belief. And to get all those bits of the jigsaw to come together, you've got to have fantastic players, really good coaches, a top coach, and you've got to have an owner who wants to play the fiddle constructively in second place. And
look at Palace, Russ. Look how they outplayed Villa, an outstanding team this season, right? And Palace, the players to a man, they were first to everything. Like their subs played out of the skin. Mateta played out.
But Tej, you can see that they follow Tej, the instructions of the manager.
To Mitch, Fretton. We were chatting on X, and wow, like what a performance they put in. And Russ, that just exemplified everything that you just said, mates. Will and fight and desire and unity and belief. It was wonderful to watch. And bless, man, they've never won. No disrespect, they've never won anything, right? So they so deserved that yesterday and put a really good Villa team to the sword. To your point, Russ, they absolutely exemplified all of that.
Yeah. Look, we're going to squeeze in a very, very quick final break of this show where you're going to hear from James Maddison, who gives you his thoughts on the back of that game. And then we're going to very quickly give you our thoughts ahead of what is to come for Tottenham. Bodo Glimt on Thursday, a massive, massive game for the football club. And I'm not here. So I've got a little bit of a break coming up. Pat looked really surprised there. Pat didn't know about that. Obviously, he's more surprised about the fact maybe that I have got myself a break. Pat is going to be part of the panel whilst I'm away. He is going to be. Let's hear from James Maddison, and then we're going to come back. And before I do, look, I must say, again, there's over nearly 20,000 of you watching the show. Thank you ever so much again for all the incredible support last one on Spurs. Please keep liking, subscribing. Let this go out to a worldwide Spurs audience. I say this all the time that, it helps the growth of the show, but it also, I think, out there, hopefully, exemplifies just how frustrating the fan base is right now to an audience of Spurs fans that I know, die hard. We love the football club. We want the football club to be successful. I think this show, of all many things it's always, I think, very much in cohesiveness with how the fans feel. So please keep liking, please keep subscribing. Let's quickly hear from James Maddison and his thoughts on that game.
Maddison, thanks for joining us. No, it's tough. What can we say, really? I mean, 5-1, end up 5-1, started well. Big occasion. What do you think?
Yeah, credit to Liverpool. They've been the best team in the league this season, hence why they've won the Premier League. But listen, it's going to be one of them that we need to put that to bed and ignore all outside noise and negativity. And that's not to say that fans can't have their opinions, because they will, and rightly so. But as a group, with the manager and the coaches and the players and everyone in our tight-knit day-to-day group, we've got to try and block all that out, because we've got a massive night Thursday.
How difficult has it been? I mean, the manager called it a balancing act last week. We've got massive, massive games in terms of the season and important Premier League games in between them. I mean, how difficult has it been?
Yeah, it's always difficult, but I think we're not naive enough to know that the way this season ends especially is because of what the European competition can bring. So that's why we've got to put, like I said, block out all the negativity, stay tight-knit as a group that's got us to this point in the semi-final, and try and have positive thoughts going into that, because we're going to need everyone at the club, fans, all the staff, everyone together, united for the first leg on Thursday, which is a big night.
OK, last one, mate. You've seen it all. Big player in this club. Tell the fans how we are going into... The Thursday night is massive. We're back at the stadium. It's the biggest game of the season. The floor's yours, mate. Tell the fans what we need Thursday.
Oh, no massive message from me, but just to stick with us. I mean, it's like I said, I never want to ever tell the fans and supporters who travel all around, pay their good money to come watch us after a result like that, what to do. But it's important we all come together Thursday. Massive night. We can still create something really special this season, and we're going to need them, like I said. So let's be ready for Thursday, because it's a huge night.
Thanks, mate.
So there you go. Those were the thoughts of James Maddison, the latest to be ruled out by Spurs to try and give some hope ahead of what we know for Tottenham is the two biggest games of their season. And whereas Russ said earlier, and T just said as well, and Pat, it does all come down to the Europa League, where Tottenham, of course, have got Bodo Glimt over 2 legs. That comes on Thursday. Look, very, very quickly, look, as we know, for the game against Liverpool, Spurs did make 8 changes. So Ange, very much, whatever you want to think about the way in which he managed the squad, he made 8 changes to it. It's sore for Tottenham. That, as we touched upon earlier, for maybe our concern. You had Archie Gray getting a start in midfield. Many would say finally, alongside Lucas Bergvall and James Maddison in attack. Brennan Johnson and Dominic Solanke came in to join Matisse Tell in the front 3. You had Kevin Danso and Ben Davies preferred at centre-back to Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven, with Jed Spence and Destiny Adogi, the 2 full-backs, and Vicario carrying on in goal for Tottenham. Ange actually said before the game, for those that weren't aware, on Rodrigo Bentancur, that Bentancur is absolutely fine. He's a bit like Destiny last week, where he's played a lot of football recently, and we felt he would benefit from a weekend off, which is the reason why he wasn't involved. There has been reports, for those that aren't aware, that Bentancur has been linked as part of a double duo deal with Atletico Madrid. There's been reports out of Spain once again that Romero has already said yes to go into Atleti, and Tottenham are now going to have to work with Atletico Madrid to find an agreement. I think the biggest problem they're going to have there is the fact that Tottenham are going to value the player in the round, reportedly, the £60 million mark, and Atletico Madrid want a deal for around 40 million. Maybe it depends on how much Romero is willing to kick up a fuss to get the move. And I'll be honest with you, this is no disrespect to Christian's character or as a player. I think he might kick up a fuss to get out, because as supporters, we're stuck with him, but he might want to kick up a fuss to get out of the football club. Going to very quickly just kind of rattle through the goals. I'm not going to take us too much time on them. Solanke did put Tottenham in front very, very early on. It was his 8th Premier League goal of the season, his first outfield since January the 4th. He actually won the corner, as well as obviously scoring the goal by chasing down a slightly hopeful ball from Kevin Danso, forcing Konate to make the mistake and clear it for a corner. Just Pat, very quickly on Solanke, you said it earlier, a very willing worker, really hard working. Is the biggest problem with Solanke that we've never really played to his strength so far during his period here? Because I know there's been some Spurs fans out there that are worried the fact that we've bought him off the back of only one good season, and there's been nothing really to back up what he's done over the course of 2, 3 and 4. And as we know, look, he's not going to be Harry Kane. There is only one Harry Kane. Whoever the next striker that's going to come in to fill that void was always going to have that pressure of dealing with being the next big striker to replace Harry Kane.
You know what? I really like him. Like Russ said, he's more than capable. You can see it. I think he's a talented footballer. Unfortunately, we haven't played to his strengths in a lot of James Maddison puts it on a plate for him. Brilliant header, to get up amongst Konate and Van Dijk, two of the best centre backs in the league, and to power yourself and be in that position, and obviously to beat Alisson, who probably is the best goalkeeper in the league. It was a brilliant goal, and that just shows his quality. And you see how hard he works for the team. You see what he can do. Very good hold-up play, good passing, good array of passes, and good way to pass. I think he's a fantastic striker. We just haven't given him the service that he deserves. And unfortunately, he's been injured for a while as well. So coming back into it, he had all of that. But yeah, it's one of those things where I hate to say it, but a better manager, we would have seen a better Dominic Solanke.
Yeah.
I think as well, you've got to feel for a lot of these guys. They've come into just a mess, really. You've got so much different things going on at the same time, and you've had all these players trying to settle, trying to understand, trying to grow into their role, being overplayed, overexerted, getting injured, coming back in, and there's a lot going on, man. But I do think he's a good striker. I saw someone in the comments say he's a flop. I disagree with that highly. Again, like we were saying before, everyone's entitled to their opinions, and I get it. When a team's as bad as we are, people will rightfully say that no one's been good. But if you look at him and what he's done and what he's brought, I think he's been really good, especially in Europe. I saw he's played 10 games and had 8 goal involvements.
Yep.
So quietly in the Europa League, he's been doing his thing as well. Very good player.
I keep saying this. There's a lot of these players that I would like to reserve judgment on until they're managed by someone of a better quality of coaching. I think once we see that.
Sorry to jump in. Mateta had a disaster when he first came into Crystal Palace, and look at him now. And I think he's a very similar player. He's a similar size and structure. He's really strong. He fights for every ball. He's tenacious. I've had nothing but good things to say about Dominic Solanke. Again, to your point, Pat, everybody has the right to their opinion. We don't have to disagree.
Of course.
We always have these conversations and discussions respectfully. To me, I really like him a lot. I think when he comes, yes, he's been let down by this system and this manager, but just having a little stability, in whatever form that comes in, you will see 5-10% raise in a lot of these players that people are on the fence about or perhaps not sure about. And if you get 5% more out of Dom Solanke, I think he's a 15 goal a season striker, if not more. Sorry to jump in, Rick.
No, absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. So Liverpool very quickly got themselves level. Diaz had the ball in the net, but the flag went up. After a VAR check, the goal was ruled as the fact he was onside. So it did count, and Liverpool were back level. They had the ball in the net actually a few minutes after that, but it didn't count after a VAR check. I mean, look, the nature of us conceding early goals, now we went one in front. Again, it kind of gives you an indication. A lot of these players are checked out. They're not mentally there or zoned in. Liverpool very quickly went 2-1 up. Again, absolutely awful play from Tottenham in the build up to the goal. Trying to play out from the back, absolute madness. Very poor from Tell. Gray struggles the ball by Gravenberch, and then McAllister let rip, and a shot fly past Vicario. So after a bright start, I think it was very alarming that things would get very, very ugly. And they did. And you know what? At half-time, coming on to half-time, Liverpool did add a third. And again, look, we've seen better defending probably for a lot of under 18s, under 17s. I'm doing maybe the school level disservice. Bergvall headed the ball back from McAllister's corner, but it dropped to Gakpo, who scored and made it 3-1. It was only the 34th minute. And again, another stat that I know Andy Costa probably raised a smile to. Gakpo hadn't scored in 16 games until he last scored against us. Of course it's us. 3-1. And you'd probably argue that Tottenham poked the bear with Liverpool. And obviously, that's what happened. They went into half-time 3-1 up. And I think, really, let's be honest about it, at that point, it was 3 goals in 18 minutes, which pretty much meant for Tottenham, it was damage limitation. We had a couple of changes at the break. Sarr, Kulusevski came on for Graham Maddison. The latest in Ange's technique of rotating for, again, Europa League games coming up. Concerning about Vicario, Russ, just very quickly on him, because distribution at times in that game is really alarming. Do you agree with Pat? Is it purely a confidence issue, or is there a degree of maybe a need for more coaching there? I mean, I think for me, I think maybe he's a better goalkeeping coach. I don't know if you agree.
I would say if you're a goalkeeper and you're conceding a lot of goals, and you will naturally think that it's not my fault all the time, you become nervous what's in front of you. You become frustrated at the manner, often repeat manner that goals are conceded. And I think, you know, when he first came to the club, he was very, very good. But we all know that for 18 months we haven't really been a very good football team at all. And so I think that rubs off on him. I mean, he's an international footballer, so he can't be that bad. But I think I fall into the camp that we're the better coach, a better goalkeeping coach, who are worth their weight in gold. I think he could step up and up and up. But we're back to the same old issue, aren't we? Really?
Yep, it goes right back to the top. I'm just on this point. I don't have my mind to bring you in very, very quickly on this before we look ahead to Bodo very quickly. I know one thing that I hope your mum, if I say this publicly, Tej, it's maybe infuriated you, is that we've seen on numerous occasions Vicario bollocking other people around him, but takes very little.
There's a couple of things that really worry me about Vicario, and I think Patrick and Russ are right. You know, Russ just said, listen, this is an international goalkeeper, and I think we've all seen Vicario's shot-stopping ability, and his reflexes are, you know, not second to none necessarily, but let's say within the upper echelons, the upper tier of goalkeepers. He's got extraordinarily quick reactions, and we've seen him pull off worldie after worldie. However, we've also talked extensively about his flapping on anything aerial. He's not a goalkeeper who can command his 6-yard box in any way, shape or form. And that's a massively glaring issue that doesn't seem to be getting fixed. And he's been at the club for a couple of years now. And then, of course, there's his kicking. His kicking is absolutely disastrous. He must have kicked it to a Liverpool player directly 5 or 6 times today, and then also kicked it to a defender, a Tottenham player, who was being closed down by at least 2 players, probably 4 or 5 times as well. And then something goes wrong, and he's the first to come out and scream at the top of his voice, but he only ever does it to the youngsters. If Romero even gives him a side-eye glance, Vicario hops back in his shell faster than a frightened turtle. So to me, he looks like a little bit of a bully. And me in my life, I never could stand a bully. And so for me, that is the biggest issue. If you're going to dish it out, you have to take responsibility yourself and stop barking at the young kids. You put your arm around the young kids. Don't shout abuse at them when you yourself are responsible for so many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's got to say it's worrying. You know, can't get away from that. I mean, the nature of the goals. Look, Salah was always going to score for Liverpool. It just felt he was always going to score, and he made it 4-1. Pat's trying to comfort himself in the background. They're difficult to really do so. A low drive and Salah in the bottom corner. All came from Kulusevski losing the ball on the edge of the Spurs box, and Liverpool countered at speed to score. I mean, you know, the amount of times I keep on saying about a player that's lost the ball, or a player that's given away the ball, or someone that's rolled over possession that leads to a goal. It's not always been like this. It's not always been like this in terms of the goals that we've conceded. Yes, you know, we always laugh and joke about Tottenham with the Benny Hill music in the background. They concede loads of goals. I promise you, it's not always been like this, the way Spurs are conceding goals and the frequency and the amount of errors that we make. Ange again made a couple of changes. You had Richarlison and Odegaard replacing Solanke and Tell. Destiny Udogie, unfortunately, put the ball in his own net for 5-1. Tottenham have scored more own goals for than any other team in the Premier League this season. As we know, we are, Pat, our own worst enemy, aren't we, at times? And this, again, really exemplifies the fact of the way we're conceding goals, the nature we give them away. Players have emotionally, mentally checked out.
And it looks like the manager's checked out as well, because you don't see any... I mean, to be fair, you never saw any commands or any instructions from him at the best of times. But it was suicidal to go to Anfield today and try and play that way. Like, sometimes you just got to understand what you're up against, understand the opposition. And this is where, for me as a manager, he fails extensively, because you look at other managers and they will alter their game plan to whoever they're playing against. We play the same way, no matter if we're playing Southampton, Crystal Palace, Brentford or Liverpool. How are you going to play Liverpool, probably the best team in Europe this year, or one of the best teams, and you go to Anfield and you want to do this tiki-taka stuff, play out from the back, you got the goalkeeper under pressure, you're still instructing him to chip it and lob it to, like TJ said, a defender with 2 players closing down on him. You're trying to tiki-taka outside of the box, and you've got Spence and Bergvall and Kulusevski doing triangles near the opposite, like near the penalty. It's crazy. And then you lose the ball and they're in on goal, one shot, boom, it's a goal. lose the ball again. You know, they make a pass or two, one shot, boom, it's another goal. And we kept doing it, and we don't learn. And the manager doesn't instruct them, and he enforces them to play the same way. And it's suicidal. And this is why we've conceded so many goals and ultimately lost so many games. And I just don't get it. I watch Oliver Glasner, I watched Graham Potter, I watch any other manager, and they learn from their mistakes and they actually alter their game plan to whoever they're playing against. And this guy just seems to do the same thing in every single game. And it just beggars belief how you can go this long and still do the same things. And again, against the best team. And you knew what we was up against today. And you knew that you had to just essentially be solid at the back.
But Pat, why is it so hard, Pat? And I know we made 8 changes, Pat, and this is to let you come back and answer, and sorry to cut you there. But why is it so hard, Pat, to play the way we played against Frankfurt away? Why is that so hard to show a bit more grit, determination?
He's just stubborn, and I don't understand. I think that he thinks his philosophy, maybe he's deluded, or maybe, I don't want to be disrespectful, but sometimes it does look like it's a bit of delusion now. Maybe he feels his philosophy is going to work and this is it, and it's not working, and the results will show you it's not working, but he's so adamant that it will work, and then you just get this where you're at now. It's like he just doesn't want to change.
Look, I'm going to close this. I'm going to close and take us very, very forward to Bodo Glimt because, look, I'm going to say one thing. Massive respect again to the Tottenham fans that travelled where humiliation, let's be honest about it, was almost inevitable at Anfield in what was a dead rubber with the first team as bound to be rested. And I really hope to God that you are all rewarded on Thursday. I think it is really important to those that are going on Thursday to the stadium. Shout out, can I just say, to THFC Flags, Spurs Song Sheet. Look, we need to, for Thursday and for the return leg, and I maybe think I've got a cheek asking this, or we should all maybe feel the same on this point. We have to put our feelings on the owner, hierarchy, manager, players to one side, and for the fans that are in that stadium, sorry for swearing in advance, sing your absolute bollocks off for 90 minutes because we're going to need a lead going to Bodo. Make no mistake about it. And we're going to need an absolutely raucous Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the message to the fans going, there's a semi-final meetup being produced by Return of the Shelf, THFC Flags, Spurs Song Sheet. That's 6:45 p.m. UK time. That will be, of course, at that first leg. Wear white, bring a scarf, wave flags, build an atmosphere, make noise. And the last one, even I can't believe I'm saying this, create history. Yes. We're creating history at the moment for all the wrong reasons domestically. But can we create history for all the right reasons? Let me start with you, Russ.
Yes.
What do we see on Thursday?
Got to win. I think we will win. I think the players, I'm not happy saying this, have a completely different attitude to playing in Europe than they do in the Premier League. But, you know, the pot at the end of the rainbow, if we can get past Bodo Glimt, get to a final, 50-50 chance then, maybe more. And to win that and get in the Champions League, we shouldn't go forward with Ange, I'm afraid. That's my opinion. But you get a chance to bring in players and a top-level manager to come and be part of our football club and hopefully attract, because of their presence and the performance of the team, the setup, new owners to come in. I mean, I do think it's actually a bit of a jigsaw that a lot of bits need to come together, but this is a very, very important semi-final. To limp out would almost be, well, not expected, but inexcusable, I think. So hopefully, please, Thursday, get enough of a lead where you've got a little leeway on that dodgy pitch out there. And I'm sure the players can do it because I sense that they want to do it.
Yep.
And, you know, but whatever happens, he cannot stay.
Russ, I've got to say, there's been listen, as there is every show when you're on, there's so much love for you from a lot of the Spurs fan base.
Always a pleasure, Rick.
You always say what a lot of people feel. And then for someone that's been part of this now with me for nearly 3-4 years, yes, it's been that long, Russ. I'm really sorry.
Yes.
With the possibility of even more, don't get too scared off, Russ.
This season's been fun, isn't it?
I'm so sorry, mate. But I want to say a massive thank you to you for being part of, you know, again, what many feel out there is a show that they need in their lives to get them through. So I know a massive thank you from not only me, but I know to all the Spurs fan base that you represent a lot of how they feel and how you say it in such the way you do. So thank you, mate. And I'm sorry for putting you, sorry for bringing you back.
Yeah, no. I'm always up for it. I'm a bit of a masochist, as you know.
Yeah, I know.
But thank you for watching and listening, and keep listening. It's the best Spurs podcast there is, isn't it?
Bless you, mate. Well, listen, you're making us and helping us be part of that. We can't thank you enough. Pat, thank you, mate. Now, again, I don't think people realise the sacrifices people go to make this show work, dropping family off in advance and working around all different kind of navigations and things to make these shows come together. It's not just done, I promise you, with a click of a fingers or a blink of an eye. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to make the show what it is with the great people that we have on here. So, Pat, thank you. I bet, Pat, you feel like I've aged you a lot this season. I'm so sorry, mate.
Well, it's not you personally, it's the team. So yeah,
I know.
Not, I don't begrudge you. So it's all good. And yeah, like TJ and Russ and you were saying, Ricky, Thursday it's on, man. Like I'm gonna be there. I'm sure most of the people here watching and listening will be there as well.
They will.
And I can't wait. I'm gonna wear a white hat. I'm not sure what kit I'm not sure.
You got a message, Pat? Have you got a message for the fans that have been really
of course,
like you disinterested throughout the season? That I've seen a lot of comments, Pat. Can I just say that when you raised your concerns over Ange, they really wanted everyone to get behind the manager. I know you're not the kind of person that would say it's not a tell you so, but what would your message be now to the fans with these two games coming up? How important is it now we come together in your opinion for the team?
For me, it's another sliding doors moment, and I don't want it to be another what if. Like for all that happened before the Champions League final, it still grinds my gears a bit that Pochettino was talking about if he wins he might be off and all of that stuff. I never liked hearing that before. We all, we look back with rose-tinted glasses, but Poch was kind of laying the flowers and foundation for an exit if he would have won that trophy, and obviously he would have had every club in the world looking at him. So I don't want any of that this time around. I want us to leave everything on the pitch as in the players, and everything in the stadiums as in the fans, and I'm sure we will do that, because I do feel that if we do win it, I don't think Ange will be here next season, but it does really, like Russ said, it really opens the door for a better caliber of players and a better caliber of manager to come in. Because even with the circus and the hoopla and everything that's gone on, if you have won a trophy, it shows players that you can win things. It shows that the players there have won stuff. And also, oddly enough, we're back in the Champions League, which is where every player wants to be. So, and the thing is, we can do it, man. When you look at the teams left and you look at the way we played, weirdly enough, in Europe, we've actually been really good this year, like really good. We finished in the top 8, so we qualified automatically. And to beat Frankfurt the way we did, even though it was only a 2-1 aggregate scoreline, we absolutely battered them over the 2 legs. So if we're on it, we can do it again. And just don't take it for granted, and then just get behind the boys and let's do it, man. It's so odd because like this season, as much as I want to fast forward it, we've got something massive. Yeah, it's such a weird feeling, man. I can't really describe it. It's so odd, but we're here, so let's do it.
Pat, thank you so much. And you're on that point there, as TJ's going to close the show here for us. We all keep saying we can't wait to the end of the season, but yet it could end with a trophy, despite what we've had to go through in between to get there. TJ, have you got a rallying cry to a lot of the Spurs fans that are so disillusioned right now, but love hearing your thoughts and your optimism in taking away sometimes what has been difficult games to have to dissect and try and establish what's happening with this football club?
I mean, listen, I'm never a person who's lost for words, but in all honesty, I don't think they need a rallying cry from me or from anybody else. We as a fan base, we're so committed and so dedicated and so loyal. There's never been anything inconsistent about that. Yes, of course, when we lose quite so often, and we lose, in a humiliating fashion like we did today, people are going to be angry and upset, rightfully so, entirely justified and deserving to feel the way that they feel. However, Marlon said it the last time I was on the show, we're going to be up for it on Thursday. Of course we are. Everyone's going to be wearing white. People are going to be waving their banners and scarves. We're going to create an atmosphere that Bodo Glimt have never experienced in their lives. Remember when we really handed it to Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, and Gary Neville talked about the atmosphere at the stadium? That's going to be nothing. That's going to be us on a kind of, moderate to average 5 to a 6. We're going to bring it a 9 or a 10 on Thursday night. It is an absolutely pivotal moment in the modern history of this great football club. Founded in 1882, this moment on Thursday night in 2025 is an absolutely fundamental, critical, essential moment, not only for the survival, I believe that, of this football club, but also the development, the evolution, and the onward trajectory of this football club. So let's have it on Thursday. I'll be back on the show. Ricky, you go and enjoy some sunshine. I'll be back on the show. Love to the viewers and the listeners, man. I will see you then after a victory for Tottenham Hotspur on Thursday night. Come on, you Spurs.
Feels like, as we know, two big games to come. And I think TJ's right in saying that it's two big games in the modern history of Tottenham for the implications of what comes next for the football club. Look, we're going to love and leave you there. Again, massive support for the show, for, again, all the love we've had out there. Over 20,000 of you that have watched the show live. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Patty Tyrant. Pat, thank you so much. To the brilliant broadcaster Russ Williams, to actor TJ Ramini. Guys, thank you for your support. Keep liking, keep subscribing. We have been the last word on Spurs. We will be back with you in due course. Oh, thanks again. Keep the support. And as always, come on, you Spurs.